Okay, hello and welcome to the sixth video of the JavaScript series, and this time we're going to be looking at programming fundamentals. So far with your JavaScript we've mostly done sort of DOM manipulation type stuff where you sort of click events and you create things and add them to the document object model. One of the more powerful things about JavaScript is that we don't necessarily do that all based on events and all based on clicks, but we can do that programmatically as well. And we can use condition, we can use selection in order to sort of define how our program responds or how our web page carries out actions based on certain things. So for example, you could have a website that if you were over 25, it would be different from if you're under 25, and whatever else based on that data you could sort of branch off. So we're going to look at how you go about doing selection in JavaScript. I'll do another video about actually applying that into the DOM, but for now we need to look at some fundamentals and look at some sort of basic programming stuff. If you have come from a programming background and you've done other programming languages, a lot of this will be very, very familiar. However, if you haven't at all and you're only dealing with if then else would be in Excel, then it's a similar concept, but the syntax, the layout of it is slightly different. So we'll need to go over that. So today's video we're going to look at logical operators, we're going to look at conditional operators, we're going to look at if then and else statements, and we're going to look at if then and else if statements, and then we're going to finally end up with switch case, which is another selection method offered by JavaScript. It's also known as case select in other languages, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, we're not going to be using Dreamweaver today. I've got everything in a REPL. So first thing it's worth knowing about are your logical and comparative operators. Comparative operators allow you to compare two values together. So you can work out if value 1 is greater than or less than, equal to, not equal to, equal to and strict equal to we'll talk about later. But comparative operators compare two values. We then have logical operators. Logical operators are very similar, but logical operators create the results of two statements. So for example, well, we'll look at this in more detail later. This would be a logical comparison, whereas these are just comparisons. It's just comparative. So first of all, let's just talk you through. So the greater than symbol is as you would expect. It's just the greater than symbol. Greater than or equal to is the greater than sign followed by equals. Less than or equal to is the same. All of these are pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive, and we'll show you how you work them into a statement in a second. The only one to watch out for really is equal to and strict equal to. JavaScript is quite loose in terms of how it handles data types, so equal to ignores data types essentially, whereas strict equal to matches them. So in this case here, 10 is equal to 10, that's definitely true. This second one, 10 is equal to the string 10. Essentially, the values are the same, so that's okay. And then 10 equal to string 10 in this one is not okay because this is a strict equals. Finally, 10 not equal to 10, and this last one is 10 greater than. I'll delete this actually because it's not for now. So if I run this, it will turn out as you expect. 10 is in fact greater than 9, so that's fine. 10 equals 10, yes. 10 equals string 10, that is correct. Strict equals, so 10 is not equal to exactly equal to string 10 because they're different data types, so that comes out false. And 10 is not equal to 10 is also false. If we were to change this to 10 is not equal to 9, and this one here, 10 is exactly equal to the value 10, then they're all true, you see. So these comparative operators are the basis of most of the if statements and selection statements you'll be using. Logical operators, on the other hand, will also come into it, and you can use that to compare the results of multiple ifs. So your logical operators look like this. So generally they'd work in this sort of format. You'd be comparing the results of two comparisons. So if 10 is equal, this will be true if this is true and this is true. This one here is a bit strange. We're going to output not true, which is false. In this one we're going to output not false, which is true. In this one, we're going to check if false and true, what the output is of that, and this one we're going to check the output of this. So I'm just going to quickly, in fact I'll remove these top ones because you've seen those. If we run this now, I'll talk you through this. So this fact comparatively is true, and this fact also is comparatively true. So if something is true and something is true, it returns true. These ones are pretty obvious. It's the opposite. The exclamation mark essentially inverts true or false value. So if we did like this, that's a true fact. If we do the not of it, it's the same. It's still false. Got this out. Oh, sorry. We'll change that. Not equal to 10. It's now true. So that just inverts the result of something. In this case, we have a false and a true. So that winds up false. Essentially, the AND statement only works if both sides of the equation are true. And finally, with the OR, as long as one side of the equation is true, it will work. And it will turn true. So this symbol, by the way, it's not always the easiest thing to find. It is the shift version of backslash, forward slash. I always get confused. It's that one. Alright. So you generally use these comparisons to create your if statements, and you can make more elaborate if statements using the logical operators. So I'll keep that there for now. So if statements look like this. You type in if, because that's a statement. Your condition has to go in brackets. So if 10 is greater than or equal to 10, then we want to console.log. Sorry, I froze there. Hello. Else console.log not hello. It's a perfectly sensible program. So in this case, we will see hello because 10 is in fact greater than or equal to 10. If you run that, it comes out like that. If you want to make a more elaborate statement, you could have this. If this or 9 is not equal to 15, and it would output that. Generally, though, we'd be using variables for these or data input by the user, which we'll look at in a second. Do this. So if I did dim, not dim, that's Visual Basic, sorry. Var name equals Kevin, and then a more traditional statement var name. If name equals that, you'd ask them, please enter a name. Else valid name. So in this case, if the name is blank, equal to. If name equals blank, then you're going to say ask them to enter a name. Otherwise, you're going to output that the name is valid. So if we run this as expected, you'll see that's a valid name. The other part of this is else if. So we can add another condition here. Else if brackets name equal to Kevin, then console.log hello Kevin. Fact, let's do this better. Hello plus name. Because you're not always going to be called Kevin. Well, you will in this case. Sorry, that's very silly of me. But I mean, this will work exactly the same. So if we run this, hello Kevin, because it meets this condition. And you can put in as many else ifs as you need. We copy this and just generate loads and loads of these. It gets quite confusing. The code gets very, very messy if you do that, but it works. You can keep adding more and more else if conditions until you're blue in the face. I want to keep one of these. Sorry. To there. Alright, the other thing worth noting here is that what happens in the condition. So if condition's met, it carries out this code. It doesn't need to be one line. You can have a whole heap of code in here. You can even have more ifs in here. 1 is greater than 2. Console.log. More examples. And if we just change that to show you it working, there. So it doesn't need to be one line as long as your selection statement is encased in brackets like that. That all happens in this block. If the name is Kevin, none of that block gets executed, it just jumps straight to there. So earlier on, a second ago, I showed you that you can have lots and lots of else ifs, and that can get very, very confusing if there are loads and loads of else ifs. So in a situation where you know what your inputs are going to be, so let's just do choice equals, I'll explain this in a second, sorry, choice equals 1. If we had a program or a website that gave the user a choice to pick a certain option. So 1 equals homepage, 2 equals login, 3 equals logout, and that'll do for now. We could use a different kind of selection. Now we mentioned at the start you can use a switch statement. So switch statement looks a bit like this. In fact, it looks exactly like this because this is a switch statement. You're doing a switch based on choice. And then for each variable that you're going to take, so each value, you're going to take, so we've got 1, 2, or 3. Each value you take, you can create a case for it. Console.log, welcome home. And the syntax follows the same for all of these. So case 2 is going to be... sorry, my mouse is a bit broken just now. I say just now, I mean my mouse is just a bit broken. I need to get a new one. Log out. And this should be case 3. So our case is 1. By default, when we run this, we should see this code here. And if I run this, we actually get all of them. Unlike other programming languages which you might have encountered, this needs to be slightly modified. So the choice statement, it will just follow everything. So if we do a choice 2, for example, it'll skip case 1, but then it'll carry out all of them. So we need to tell Visual Basic, not Visual Basic, sorry, I was using that earlier. We need to make sure JavaScript knows to stop at a point as well. So if after each case, you want to break. And break just ends the case. Well, ends the switch. And we run this. In this case, we're just logging in and then it stops. What if we type in 5 though? Nothing happens. We want to be able to handle that too. And you can add one more case that is just called default. And with the default, we can... invalid choice. There. If you run that, see? So that is your that's your methods of selection. You've got if then else, and then with the else if clause, or you have switch statements. And these are your operators here. So you're going to check if things are greater than, things are less than, greater than, equal to. I wouldn't worry about these. They're not really mentioned in the syllabus. You can generally survive only using this one. There are certain use cases where you need this, but I think they're beyond the level that we're needing to go to. So don't worry about it. You can just mostly use these. I just thought I'd show you it for completeness. Alright, hopefully that explains selection a little bit. I'll do a very, very short video next showing you how you can use this in a program. And hopefully see you then. Right, bye.